I am so glad you're here watching this video because one of the #1 questions I get asked during Boost Camp is what is Kombu and why is Kombu? So you're in the right place to learn all about Kombu. So firstly, Kombu, and I've got 2 examples before me today. Kombu is the Japanese word for seaweed or kelp. So that's the first thing. What we're talking about today is a sea vegetable, #1. Now Kombu comes in a couple of different ways. In my first little packet here, I've got this sheet, and yeah, I know, it's pretty unattractive. It kind of looks like a piece of dried leather, right? Because it is literally dried seaweed or dried kelp. So that's the first thing you're gonna be looking for. Ideally, you're looking for these types of sheets. Now don't worry, if you see your sheets with a little bit of white sort of things on the outside, that is not mold. This is actually glutamate, dry glutamate, and that's what gives Kombu its flavor. Best described as almost like a type of savouriness or an umami. So that's what that white is. Don't be afraid when you buy your Kombu if it's got a little bit of white in it. Now, talking about buying your Kombu, where can you get Kombu from? So as you can see here, the first little example I have of Kombu is, this is a Korean Kombu, one of my favorite ones. And if you were to look at that packet, you wouldn't have any idea, potentially, unless you can speak and read Korean, you wouldn't actually know what's in here. So it's a good idea when you do go shopping for your Kombu, and I buy mine at my local Asian supermarket, they always have different types of dried kelp or Kombu. Is that you go and you ask and say, I'm looking for a sheet of dried seaweed or dried kelp, also known as Kombu. So that's my first port of call, is to check out my local Asian supermarket. They have really good examples of Kombu there. The next place you can have a look for, and this Kombu I have is, I actually bought this online. So this is a New Zealand Kombu, which is amazing. And what you'll find, and you do, go onto Google, have a bit of a search, put in to the search options, Kombu near me, or dried kelp near me, and your closest Kombu will turn up for you. So when it comes to the New Zealand Kombu, it's in these tiny little strips. So if you are using this particular brand, and this is Pacific Harvest, I love these guys. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't own the company. I just love their products. They are fabulous. And yes, you can buy it online and have it delivered to your door. You can also get Pacific Harvest in lots and lots of different places throughout Australia and New Zealand if you're based there. And of course, because it comes from the pristine waters of New Zealand, it is pretty fabulous. But because you're dealing with little strips, right, as opposed to something like this, you're probably wondering how much Kombu do I use? Now I do find that the New Zealand Kombu is really, really good quality. So when I'm making my Kombu stock or my Kombu broth, I use a large pot. Into my pot here, I have 5 liters of water, which is just over 1 gallon. So it's 1.25 gallons, 1.4, I think it is, of a gallon. So 5 liters of the water goes in there. And when I'm doing that, I usually add in 4 strips of this New Zealand Kombu. 4 strips, something along those lines. They go into my pot. If I'm using the Kombu that is the strips, like, sheets like that, then it's just 1 sheet. So it's about an A4 size piece of paper goes into my pot. It all depends on the quality of the Kombu. Some Kombus are stronger than the others because of course they all come from different parts of the ocean. So I find with the Korean one, I use 1 piece. With the New Zealand, because it's so good, I'm using sort of 4 to 5 strips of that, and that is enough to make 5 liters of stock. And then of course we use that stock to make soups and gravies, to make sauces, to add to our curries, and there is a really good reason why we do that. So I'm going to be putting that strip in today, just like that, into my water. But there's a really good reason why we use this as the base to all of our soups and our stocks, is that Kombu is really, really nutrient dense. So that's the best part. It's really high in calcium, would you believe? If you're wondering, how do I get my calcium, because we don't do dairy on this, you get your calcium from your kombu. It is also really high in iodine, and it's really high in iron. So it's got these really amazing nutritional qualities about it. And because it's so incredibly high in all these nutrients, it has the ability to reduce our blood cholesterol, which is always wonderful. It can also help with hypertension. It is really good for regulating the thyroid, which helps to improve our metabolism, and it also aids in digestion, which is just wonderful. All that from a piece of seaweed. It is anti-inflammatory, and it can also assist, and this is really cool, it can also assist with rheumatoid arthritis. So it's got all these amazing health benefits. It's simple to make. All you do is you bring your water to a simmer. No boiling is needed here. You bring your water to a simmer. You have your piece of kombu, or your strips of kombu in your pot, and then you allow that to very gently tick over for about 4 to 5 hours. At no time will I bring this to the boil, because you don't want it to boil. What we're doing is we're creating a very gentle infusion. So we're allowing those amazing nutrients to be extracted into the water, and then that becomes the base to all those wonderful dishes that I was talking about. So once it's been sort of on the simmer for 4 to 5 hours, all you need to do is grab yourself up a jug. I like to use glass jugs, and just strain the liquid into your jugs. Obviously you're going to need more than one jug because you're still going to have around about 5 liters of your stock. So you drain it into your jugs, and then you take that piece of kombu that's been in there, and you can either put it into your jug, make sure it's fully submerged, because that way it will last longer. Or what some other people like to do is they take that piece of kombu, they put it in a plastic bag, and then they put it into the freezer, because you can actually use the same piece to make a whole another 5 liters or over 1 gallon of stock next time. So you can use one piece of seaweed 2 times. How cool is that? So it's really worthwhile having in your diet plan here at Boost Camp, because it's got so many amazing benefits. Of course, if you are someone who does suffer from a thyroid issue, especially if it's hypothyroidism, then you probably want to avoid the kombu, because you shouldn't have too much iodine in your diet. Instead, what you can make is a homemade vegetable stock instead of the kombu. And last little tip for you guys, I always get asked, can I do that in a slow cooker? Yes, you can. So rather than having the pot on for 5 hours, do everything like I've just described into your slow cooker. Most people just leave it on overnight. In the morning, you've got kombu ready to go.